Hetepu, Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Haru Nefer. This is Kasankma Keparu with another broadcast for you. And in this broadcast, we're going to be talking about how to use Oracle spreads. But before I do that, I'd like you to hit the like button for this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live or when I upload recorded videos. And we have free ebooks for you. If you're interested in learning more of my spiritual teachings, you can click the links below, download the ebooks, and start really diving deep into the information. And if you're not already a supporter of ours on Patreon, please consider doing so. You can do so for as little as $1, $5, $20 per month. You get exclusive access to all types of content, specifically instructional videos and videos such as hypnosis, how to attract wealth, how to invoke spirits, proper breathing, how to meditate, and so much more. And lastly, please share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. So Hetepu, my Magi's, how are you? Sorry I'm late. I was doing a lot of running around today. Very busy day, very busy day. So let's talk about some really good stuff here, which we're going to be dealing with using oracles and specifically using different types of spreads. Now, this field of study, what we're going to embark on is called divination. And this has been used by many cultures of antiquity, from ancient Africa to the Greeks to the Chinese culture. They all worked with an oracle system. And they had people who were specifically trained to use these, which were, we called them diviners. And these diviners were celebrated. In fact, that we made sure that they were taken care of. They didn't want for anything. They had lodging, they had food. And unfortunately, we live in a society that kind of channels our money or channels our support in the wrong directions. I really do not believe in sports. And many individuals who are very wise, who have come before me, have noted this in their writings and their teachings, that Caesar, when he wanted to distract the population, he would always have an event. And it was either a sporting event or troubadours, something to keep the audience's mind off of real issues. Because you don't want an educated and informed society. Therefore, Caesar cannot rule, because that society then would ask questions, hold people accountable. And as we see now, if we had an oracle system that was in place and used, we would not have certain individuals in government, because the oracles would tell us right away what their intentions are and if they were even qualified to be in the positions that they currently hold. But the ruling elite that has captured the planet, imprisoned the planet, retarded the progress of the planet, one of the first things that they did was to do away with the oracles. And through their system of propaganda, not only did they put in place a thought virus or an ergivore or a pendulum called racism, but embedded within that or baked into that is the idea that anything to deal with the occult, such as divination, meditation, are things that are not legitimate, not real. Because you have to understand, we're dealing with left brain people who cannot conceive of anything when it comes to metaphysical principles. They're very good at concrete thinking, but abstract thinking they have trouble with. And many of the Greek scholars and philosophers demonstrated this in their works. When you go back to read the literature, you'll see that when they went to the Egyptian mystery schools to learn from the ancient Kemetic people or the ancient Kamau, there was always a challenge in interpreting the information, because our ancestors focused heavily upon metaphors, analogies, puns, and the Greeks were looking for a very concrete, tangible idea behind that, which is why they have a lot of difficulties, even today, with the concept of a God that has not been created as a physical representation. When we talk about God in ancient Kemet, we go to the highest form of God, which is Amen, that which is hidden, that which you cannot perceive. And that right there is a challenge for the Western mindset that deals only in left brain thinking. But we know that people who have pigmentation, people of color, humans, um, are very adept to abstract thought process. So this is how we were able to master metaphysics, master as above, so below. And when you're dealing with things like the oracles and divination, they rely heavily upon symbolism or iconography that you must look at and interpret. And unfortunately, when we look at what has been written about ancient Kemet and ancient Egypt, you'll see that the Egyptologists have taken literally what they see and then translated that and basically warped the meaning. Same goes for the Bible. Instead of looking at it as a very occult book that deals with astrotheology, you have the religious scholars look at it and take it as a history book. And the irony of it is that those religious scholars who are at the top know it's a book of analogies. They know it's not a book of real historical figures. They know that Jesus did not exist. But in order to control the masses, exert their power, and to maintain their lifestyle, their lavish lifestyle of riches, they perpetuate the lie. Because to educate the population that the Bible is not historically correct, it doesn't contain real historical figures, means that they would lose their standing and that these individuals would probably most likely come up with something else, a new hustle. You know what I mean? Now, as for you, a diviner in training, one thing you have to realize is when you really delve deep into this and master the art of divination, you're going to find out that your life, the quality of your life is going to improve so much, so much. Not only that, but you'll have people calling upon you to do readings for them. You're going to be a person who is going to be recognized in this particular area. And it's a good feeling. And I tell people who follow me and work with me that there should never be surprises, because when you are working with the oracles, you should be doing your weekly, your daily, your monthly, your yearly readings to forecast to you what you can expect and so that you can be prepared for it. Individuals who come and think they have some trouble coming up and they need to do a reading, when you do things like that at the last minute, it just shows that you haven't been following the culture correctly, because this was basically about how we existed. And you remember, if you keep in mind that in ancient Kemet and in most right brain cultures, that we didn't have a religion. We had spirituality, meaning that we lived this 24/7. When you wanted to marry someone, you would go to a priest or priestess who would then do an oracle reading to sanction that union. If you were looking to start a business, you would go to a priest or priestess who would do a reading and tell you if this business would be prosperous for you. And you'll find that when you do these readings and you prepare for these things, that your life is going to align in such a way that you'll just have good fortune follow you. Great things will start to happen for you. Unfortunately, the way things are structured today, meaning we have been wiped of a memory of our true selves and who we really are and our culture, we go about getting our asses kicked by life. But if we were to just stop and say, let me go to God, which is God's wisdom, is the oracle. The oracle is Tehuti, or Thoth. That is the faculty of God. God has many different faculties. God has the Harukahuti faculty. God has the Ma'at faculty, which is um, real love. God has the Sebek faculty. God has the Heteru faculty. God has the Isis or Aset faculty. And those faculties are different intelligences that exist within you. So when you want to speak to God and get guidance from God, you go to God's aspect that is supreme wisdom or Akashic records, which is Tha Tahuti. Keep that in mind. This is how we existed, and many historians will say that the ancient Kemetic people were not monotheistic, that they were polytheistic, or whatever you want to call it. But that's not true. See, we understood that the one is the all, and the all is the one. The one comes as the many. And we understand that Amen is no thing, no one thing. Hence, Amen is all things. The one is the all, and the all is the one. And we celebrate that concept because we remember, as right brain people, we synthesize. So we didn't see that as a contradiction, in other words, whereas the Western mindset of trap and left brain thinking sees it as a contradiction. They say, well, you either have to be one or the other. You can't be both. Why can't you? And this is the problem that many Greek scholars had. They couldn't reconcile differences. Everything to them had to have an opposing element, which is why you'll see that how the Hegelian dialectic came out of Greek culture, which is you start with the thesis and then you come up with the antithesis. That means you have opposing viewpoint. In ancient Egypt, we never thought that way. We saw it as a complementary element that completed it and made it a whole. Now, as a diviner, you must learn to remove yourself from the readings so that you can be impartial and not be emotional. Emotionally attached to a reading very much taint your interpretation of the reading, and you can then give wrong counsel or wrong advice, which is why many diviners like myself have other diviners higher than me that I go to. I go to a group and they do readings specifically for me because if I do readings, there's an opportunity or a chance there for me to emotionally invest in it and therefore slant the meaning. So I get someone who doesn't have a dog in the race, who's not invested in that reading's outcome. So it's very important to know. And many times when we do a reading, it's also very good to sit back for a day or two and let it marinate, because if you jump to a conclusion right away, it may not be the correct consult, if you understand what I mean. Now, here's a little bit of something that we need to understand. There's a difference between when you're dealing with things like the tarot, the I Ching, the great oracle of Tahuti. All of these are not necessarily an oracle, and let me explain what I mean by that. The tarot, which is really a wonderful fortune telling or future prediction device, is not really considered an oracle. There are oracle cards out there. The great oracle of Tahuti is an oracle. The I Ching, we can say, is an oracle. That's a way of getting spiritual advice. Now, not all oracles are created equal. The I Ching is very good at giving you spiritual advice to really help you elevate your spirit to that of the Christ consciousness or to become Oser. In fact, the I Ching is based on the Tao Chi Ching, the Tao Chi Ching, and the Tao Chi Ching is based on the wisdom of Tehuti or Jehuti. And many contributors helped to author the I Ching. One was Confucius or Kung Fu Se. But there's no, we have not been able to really trace the I Ching's lineage back to one particular author. But nevertheless, it is a magnificent oracle. And as I said, if you get an opportunity, I put on Patreon the Tao Ji Ching for all of you to who are members of Patreon to listen to the audio version, because in my mind, the Tao Ji Ching is one of the most just profound advice from sages. I hear many people talking about what's that book, the Power or whatever the book's called. Those pale in comparison, because these Chinese sages communicated with the wisdom faculty of God to create the Tao Te Ching and the I Ching. I Ching means book of changes, and the reason why it's book of changes is because it's forecasting or trying to tell you how you must adapt in order to do well in a particular situation. Because life calls for you to be many colors, to be many people, to exhibit many characters. If you're static, if you're always one way, you will not do well in life. So the I Ching is trying to tell you, okay, in order for you to be successful in this situation, you have to be this type of person. You have to do this. And when you really get into the Tao Te Ching, you'll see that it's such the is such of a high spiritual nature that not all of us can live by that. Because you see, the things that the Bible teaches about not coveting their neighbor's wife, um, thou shalt not kill, is very immature and intellectually bankrupt, because that's not real wisdom and knowledge. And there is no way that the Bible can apply any of its teachings to you specifically and individually. It's a one size fits all. It's based on a cookie cutter system. It's like put these 10 commandments together, and you must accept it and live by it. That's dogma. Whereas the oracles specifically talk to you and your situation. When you go to the oracles, you compose a question, and then God speaks to you through the oracles and gives you very specific advice. When you start to work with the oracles, you're going to have a dialogue with them, and you're going to realize very quickly that there's somebody communicating with you, somebody talking to you. And it's a really it's astonishing. It's a wonderful feeling, because now you realize that there is a supreme being, that there is a God who cares about you and is looking out for your best interest. So the advice that you're getting is from the Most High, and it's tailored to help you be successful in life. If you want, you can go to a motivational speaker and pay a bunch of money to go hear them talk a bunch of bullshit. If you want, you can go to your preacher who doesn't really know anything, because his whole world has been the Bible. He has not read any other books. Or you can go to an oracle system that will give you supreme wisdom. Now, let's talk about the different systems. All right. Now, as I said before, technically the tarot is not an oracle. Okay, but we do use it as an oracle, and we call it that. Um, and it's based on European occultism, dates way back, way back. And I prescribe that to anybody who's really interested in the field of divination, to start with that and also work with I Ching. And the I Ching is very, very it can be very complicated. It can be very in depth, and that could take you a while to just get through the Chinese call them proverbs, or because it really, it doesn't speak directly to you. The I Ching uses analogies to give you advice, and you have to learn to interpret those analogies, which can be cumbersome and could be a little challenge for some people. This is why in the priesthood we would learn under the tutelage of a higher authority. Like, for example, if I was an initiate, I would be assigned a priest who was a diviner to teach me and work with me so that I could master the oracles. Because trying to do this on your own, challenging. And what you're going to learn, and I've learned, if you want to work with the tarot, is that most tarot practitioners also do practice Wiccan. They're witches and warlocks. And unfortunately, and this is what my high priest told me, and we witnessed it firsthand, is that most individuals practicing tarot, the quality of their lives have not improved. Specifically because it's a fortune telling device. It predicts the future. It gives you an insight as to what's going to happen tomorrow, next year, and so forth. But it's not designed to give you spiritual wisdom, spiritual guidance. For that, you'll need to go to the Great Oracle of Tahuti, or you'll need to go to the I Ching. And some people don't want to spiritually elevate themselves. They're just looking to find out if this person will be interested in marrying them, or will they come into money anytime soon. And that's really that's all they're interested in. But it is my hope that many of you are want to go deeper and really get into this and want that spiritual wisdom, because you should not stop at the tarot. You should go further, and there are many more oracles out there. But I don't have time to go over all of them. I'm going to touch upon a couple of them. So we're going to look at the tarot. We're going to look at some spreads, and I'm going to tell you about how you need to do your spreads. Now, the very interesting thing about the tarot is that there are certain spreads that are very common among all practitioners or all diviners. But a spread has set positions. One position tells the present, the next position tells the past, the next position tells the future. Very plain and simple. You can get more. If you want more information, you can dive deeper. One of the great things about the tarot is that you can actually create your own spreads. And those spreads in the position of the cards, the meanings come out of the meanings that you assign them. If I say that this position speaks to what's going on in my head at that particular moment, then God will reveal the card that will speak to what's going on in my head in that particular minute. Or if I say the eighth spread is about the past, then God, when I'm pulling the cards, will assign that eighth position for that particular purpose that I designate. Now, there are other spreads like the Celtic Cross, which all the positions are pre-designated because they're used by all diviners. Now, there are so many different tarot decks that you can use. The most common is the Rider-Waite tarot deck, but you can find a deck where it has the iconography that appeals to you, the colors that appeal to you. You should feel comfortable with it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the Kemetic Egyptian deck here, okay? And you'll just see there it has some Egyptian hieroglyphics on here. And I'll get into what these symbols mean, or the iconography means, in another video. But this is just to start you out. All right, so allow me to show you what I want to do. Is I want to actually show you the first spread, which is a very simple spread, which is beginning, middle, and end, or past, present, and future. Very simple, very hard to mess up. Okay. So don't worry and think, oh my God, will I do it right? Will I do it right? It's really noted for how beginners start out with that spread. It's easy for them to interpret. So this is my I Ching book here. I've done a lot of work with this over the years, you'll see. Very simple. I'm just shuffling the deck right now. I'm going to pick 3 cards. All right. All right. I assign the first position to the past, middle position to the present, what's going on in my life right now, and the future. There we go. All right. Now, obviously, I would have composed a question prior to doing this. So we have past, present, future. All right. Now, suppose I wanted to change this up. Suppose there were 3 friends and we were all bickering and we were arguing. And I wanted to know or get an insight into their perspective as to why they hold the opinions that they do. I could then change it up and say, all right, we're going to do a little different now. We're going to pick 3 cards again. And this time we can assign the cards to the various different three individuals. So I can say the first card represents Mary, second card represents Jason, third card represents me. And this that's an interesting card there. I've gotten that card before. That's why I kind of like I paused for a second there. So you'll get an idea based on the card what their internal thought process is. The oracle is kind of giving you a gateway into what they're thinking at that particular moment, which is interesting. All right. Or I can go further and I can assign it different meaning, a totally different meaning. If I wanted to just say, hey, I just want to know the present and the future, that's very quick. All right. Okay. Present, future. All right. Boom. Okay. Not too difficult there. Okay. Now let's make this, let's get a little interesting here. All right. We use a different deck here. Let us say I want to get a 360 picture on what's going on. Let's take a scenario here. Like, all right, I am at work. Things are going well. Will I get my promotion? All right. And I'm going to show you the 5-card spread. So you just basically pick 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. And 5-card spread. First card is the present. Second card is the waning influence. You can say where you're coming from. Third card is the hidden influences. Fourth card is what's coming up directly. Middle card is the synthesis of all of them. And there's also the advice. Now, this 5-card spread, I can actually change it up. If I want, I can assign this one to be the past and this one to be the future. Long as I think about that's what I want to assign prior to doing the actual reading and prior to laying the cards down. Okay. Now I can get real fancy now. And I want real information on the past, present, and the future. I can do what we call is a 9-card spread, right? This means I'm going to pick 9 cards. And let me tell you something, even though I may not compose a question in my head, the oracle is answering a question that is on my mind, in the back of my mind, and I may not realize that I'm thinking about it. Okay. 9-card spread. Past, present, future. Past, present, future. Past, present, future. And now with this, we can look at it this way. Top line represents the past, middle represents the present, and the bottom represents the future. That's how you could read it. Now, if I'm looking at the future here and I say, well, I'd like to get more information about, this is a 3 of Wands, so this really talks about joint ventures, working with somebody, being industrious, being an entrepreneur. And I want more information, I can just simply pull another card and place that card here, 7 of Wands, and get a little more detail about what this line is speaking about. And we always read this in terms of a narrative story. For some, there's a tendency to read each card isolated as in a silo, but it has to be a narrative story. As I've indicated before, you can read like beginning, middle, and end. And what I like to do is when we're in priesthood, we compose it as a sentence. We had to write it as a sentence and then recite that. Um, and that kept us from looking at each card and not connecting it to the other cards. And that's very important. Okay. So we got that. So the one thing that when I started working with the tarot, it was like this big light bulb, this big revelation to me, because I realized that the possibilities were enormous. There was so much you can do with it, and it really gets detailed. It gets so detailed it can reveal to you the person that's going to come to you, if it's going to be a male or a female, what they look like, what time they're going to come to you. So it's just so much you can do there, and it's really, really good. So I want you to think about that. Now, in comparison to something like the I Ching, and the I Ching spiritual wisdom doesn't really have spreads. It's more of what we call hexagrams and lines, and that will give you, some spiritual advice there. But it doesn't necessarily predict the future, although it can. It can predict the future. Now, I've shown you 3 spreads. You can actually make up your own spreads, create your own book of spreads. That's the wonderful thing about it, you know. So while we're here, I want to, does anyone have a question? Because as I'm demonstrating this, we can actually answer anybody's question they have to pose. All right. Let me show you an example of what they consider to be an oracle. Um, Now, let's go back to, let's do the 3-card spread. And I'm going to show you in terms of the difference between the tarot and the oracle. All right. So let's say we're going to do a 3-card spread, right? Let's use traditional right away. All right, 3-card spread. All right, there's your 3-card spread. Now, at this point, the querent or the client who comes to you wants a little bit more information. Then you can consult an oracle. And basically, this is the language of light oracle here. Same thing, you would pick a card, and that card would specifically relate to this reading. You turn it over, and what do we have? We have divine masculine. And this actually gives advice on, okay, what it's going to take to succeed in this situation is that you are going to have to basically invoke your testosterone, to be more assertive, to speak up more, to stand up for yourself, tap into that divine masculine. So that's kind of like an idea of the oracle there. And they pretty much work in conjunction. It's very good, because what I like to do is I'll do a spread with the tarot, and then to get more clarification, I'll do an oracle reading on top of that. Now, I can also do one, if I want to really get it deep into it and get some spiritual advice. This is the I Ching here, and I can pull an I Ching card. And in this particular case, I want to get more insight on this reading. I pull the I Ching card, and where is it? Where are we at here? Oh, 29th hexagram, the abysmal. So that means difficulty is coming ahead. Again, we read this as a narrative story, starting from here, going to the divine masculine and to the abysmal. All right, so you can see that's a pretty nice card there. So 29th hexagram. And as I said before, you are speaking in the I Ching you're speaking about hexagrams and trigrams. There are no spreads in the I Ching. So this is an example on working with them. Now, the more you use this, like I said, the more you'll see that someone's actually speaking back to you, and there's a dialogue going on, and you get to be pretty detailed if you're a good diviner. All right. And what I tend to do for myself is I do the weekly, as I said before, the monthly and the yearly readings. So I know what to expect. And if it's a challenge, for example, this is the abysmal. That's a challenge there. That means that you're going to be headed for hard times. So that kind of would unnerve me. So I would go back to the I Ching and say, what do I need to do in order to successfully deal with the abysmal? And I pull another one. And this one I get 38th heck opposition. So right away, it's telling me, okay, there is a lot of things going on. Now, opposition, I know, means that in order to overcome opposition, you have to do it in small incremental steps. And that's pretty much what this card is talking about. So then I ask again, okay, I'm going to get this opposition. The only way I'm going to be able to overcome this is small incremental steps. Will I be able to navigate and get through this successfully? And I pull another card and let's see what it tells me. It tells me 51st hexagram. No, it's telling me that the shock, which is the shock, this is something that will unnerve you and shock your system. So it's telling me that, well, no, it's going to cause you to be unsettled and you got to be at peace. You got to be at men, you know? And then if I want to go even deeper and get some more information, I'll go back to the light oracle and see if I can get some more spiritual advice about how I deal with the situation. Says nothing has gone wrong. Okay, so that's really kind of comforting to know. That's a good thing to know. And then let's go again and say, okay, so give me one last piece of advice on how I need to deal with the upcoming opposition. And I pull another card. And then this one tells me 52. And this is basically reiterating the other one. 52 is the mountain. As you can see, a mountain here. It's saying keep still. Don't freak out. Be at peace. And there you go. So that's just an example. There you go of how detailed you can get and how you can have this conversation and go back and forth. Now, the great thing is, if you're a very creative person, if you are a type of person that loves reading symbols, if you really get into that and love it, this is going to be something that's really great for you. I do recommend that you take these readings and meditate upon them. Go to sleep and think about them because they're going to provide you with further insight when you wake up in the morning. And the meditation itself is going to have you marinate on the answer and you'll get greater insight. And this is why a lot of our ancestors who put all this together really, let's take this for example, really worked with the iconography. Now, when you say nothing has gone wrong, we're looking at the two balancing opposites, if you want to call them. So you have to learn to integrate the good and the bad in your life. You are interpreting this. This is what you're supposed to be doing, you know, looking at the symbolism and deriving meaning for that. Okay. Going back to what I was saying before about the iconography and how we were very right brain people. This is why we created the hieroglyphics or the metu neta to be able to read the symbolism. And when you become very astute at that, then you can read omens that are going on in the environment around you. You can become very acute to seeing things and reading into things. And that's a whole different ball game because then you become a living, walking oracle. And there were people in ancient times, ancient Egypt, who were just that. And they were highly prized, highly sought after for their knowledge and for their wisdom. Unfortunately, we live in a society that all we want to do is we want to play sports and music. And we reward those musicians and sports figures with hefty paychecks. And they're intellectually bankrupt. They go blow their money. They don't provide nothing back to society. And that really needs to change, you know. So let me just do one more thing. Please comment on the fact that our society rewards sports figures and entertainers, but doesn't recognize sages. Please comment on that. Now, when I say please comment, I'm leaving it for God or the oracle to just give us a, I'm leaving a wide area for the God and the oracle to comment on. And this is 43. resoluteness. So what 43 is saying is, when you're dealing with resoluteness, when you're dealing with an evil in society, you need resolute action, resolute behavior to ferret out the wrong. So something's not right in society, people have a lackadaisical approach. They don't take action. They're not resolute and take a stand on something. And the oracle is telling me here that that's what's lacking. For the people need to be resolute and to deal with this in that way. There you go. So that's it. And as I said before, even though I'm not composing a question, sometimes when I was doing the readings, the oracle was still speaking to me. It was basically speaking to the thoughts I had in my subconscious mind. So sometimes you'll have an individual who'll come before you, and I'll just do a reading. They don't even have to ask a question. I'll do the reading because the oracle knows what they're thinking, because we're all one consciousness. We're all connected in that way. So when a person sits down before me and I say, don't talk, and I do the reading, I'll tell the person why they came to see me, what's going on in their lives, what they need to fix. That's what it's all about. That's how our ancestors lived. We didn't go to some pimp pastor who's only human, who has his own agenda. The oracles is objective. And more importantly, it's seeking for you to be successful in life. It's not giving you advice because it's jealous of you, because it doesn't know anything. You're getting advice from the Most High. Now, whether you choose to follow it or not is up to you. You have a free will. God's not going to force you to follow his word, bend your arm and say, you must follow my advice because you've come to the oracle. And now you're contracted to listen to me and do as I say. God says, no, you have a free will. You can do whatever you want. You can question me however many times you want. And if you choose not to follow me, I will still love you just the same. There's no penalty for not following me. There's no flooding, killing billions of people on the planet. There's none of that nonsense going on. So if you guys have not gotten your yearly reading, your 2020 reading, please do so. Get your reading for this year. Also remember, if you are a Patreon supporter at the $20 level, $20 per month, you get your oracle readings free for being a Patreon supporter. But you have to be on that Osirian $20 level reading. And it's not just one reading, you get 3 readings per month. So become a Patreon supporter. All right. And last but not least, we have the reality manifestation program that's still available and still going on. Sign up for that. It is awesome, which basically teaches you how to manifest into reality, how to use your God power. So I want to thank all you Magi for jumping in. And I hope you found this message useful and really start working with the oracles. You're going to see your life is going to change for the better. This is Kasank Ma Keparu, son of Ma and Tuti. Ma'at is a beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next broadcast, Amen Ra.